The Great Cherokee Children Massacre of Yahoo Falls, aka Kentucky's Wounded Knee. But yeah, this is exactly like I saw in the videos. That's it, Yahoo Falls right there. So it's a 113-foot drop. It's the longest falls in Kentucky. And then you just fall down, right? Oh! Kutua, she who carries the sun, the mother of Redbird, Chief Redbird, fell at Burnside Island in present-day Pulaski County. So the great war woman Kutua, which means she who carries the sun. The great war woman Kutua, which means she who carries the sun. Just before the French invasion into Cherokee lands, Kutua also gave a charismatic speech at Yahoo Falls. The Cherokee people also used Cumberland Falls and Eagle Falls for their council meetings, but Yahoo Falls was the most sacred of the three, for Yahoo Falls represented the ancient ones. She who carries the sun coronated Yahoo Falls with an eagle feather, which represented victory. When Kutua fought in battles, she used a lance and an ancient ball war club as her weapons. Kutua was also known as the most beautiful woman in the world. Kutua, a thunderbolt lightning Cherokee, she who carries the sun, was murdered by the French and or their Indian allies during the so-called French, British, and Indian War. Right? The British were fighting against the French, and then they would use the Native Americans as proxies. So the French and Indian War, where did the British go? It's like the Spanish-American War. Where did the Cubans go? Unfortunately, it's the victors who write the history books. So Kutua, a thunderbolt lightning Cherokee, she who carries the sun, was murdered by the French and or their Indian allies during the so-called French and Indian War. And she fell with an arrow in her side at present-day Burnside Island, Kentucky, in Pulaski County. The war headquarters capital of the Cherokee was Burnside Island. The war headquarters capital of the Cherokee was at Burnside Island. She was ceremoniously buried in Doublehead's Cave. Kutua was in present-day Wayne County. Before Kutua succumbed to her injuries that day, Kutua, a thunderbolt lightning Cherokee, she who carries the sun, was able to kill 3 others that day. 2 with her ancient ball war club, and 1 with her lance. Chief Redbird of the Redbird River was Kutua's son. Some people call Redbird Kutua Redbird because he is a descendant of Kutua, the great war woman, she who carries the sun. Redbird was the son of she who carries the sun, the most beautiful woman in the world. Burnside Island was the only island that was completely surrounded by the Cumberland River waters. It was completely surrounded by water, which makes it the ideal location to set up a war headquarters capital for the Cherokee people. So Burnside Island was the only island that was completely surrounded by the Cumberland River waters until a road was constructed a few decades back so that American motorists can conveniently drive upon it and go golfing, go to the boat ramp, or live in the RV park there. Highway 27, which connects Burnside Island to Somerset, Kentucky, and Highway 27 also goes all the way up to Cincinnati and Fort Wayne, Indiana. And it also, Highway 27, U.S. Route 27 goes all the way down to Miami, Florida. Highway 27 used to be called the Great Tellico Trail. The Great Tellico Trail. And the Great Tellico Trail was an Indian trail used by the Creek, Chickasaw, Muskegee, Yuchi, Cherokee, and the Yamacraw, before it became a major asphalt pathway for American motorists. Tellico is more properly written as Tahlequah, or in Oklahoma, Tahlequah. So U.S. Route 27 was built upon the Great Tahlequah Trail that the Native Americans had previously used. Burnside Island was briefly known as Chandler Island, which was named after Happy Chandler, a former governor of Kentucky, who once remarked at a University of Kentucky board meeting that Zimbabwe has gone full on nigger. They're all niggers in Zimbabwe now. That's what Happy Chandler said. But don't worry, Ashley Judd had protested Happy Chandler, protested against him over that remark when she was a student at the University of Kentucky. So that balances it, right? You got a rabid racist, and then you have an anti-racist. That's if you don't count fucking Adolf Rupp, that piece of shit white supremacist lowlife motherfucker. Before that, Burnside Island was known as Point Isabel, and Point Isabel in turn was formerly known as Salachi Island by the Chickamauga Cherokee. So it was Salachi Island. That's where Kutua, she who carries the sun, was killed. Burnside Island. Salachi Island. Point Isabel. Point Isabel was not named after any French aristocrat, as some have speculated, but instead Point Isabel was actually named after a daughter of a settler who killed herself after being spurned by a man during one of her romantic conquests. Before any white European settlers arrived, the Chickamauga Cherokee, specifically the Thunderbolt tribe, called Salachi Island their home. Salachi Island was a major commercial trading post for the Chickamauga Cherokee Thunderbolts, and during times of war, it was a strategic and smart place for the Chickamauga Thunderbolt Cherokee to congregate, to protect themselves, because the entire island was surrounded by water. The only way you could get to Salachi Island was to cross the river, and it would be easy to see. So it makes it an ideal war headquarters. Later on, Cherokee Chief Doublehead's Cave, aka Hines Cave, or Hens Cave in some writings, in present-day Wayne County, but back then it was called Lincoln County, near present-day Mill Springs in Wayne County, became the most used diplomatic center for the Chickamauga Cherokee's northern provincial capital. Burnside Island and Hines Cave were extremely important social, economic, and political centers for the Chickamauga Cherokee Thunderbolts. I want to issue a quick note about the Cherokee language and the word Salachi. Cherokee is a Creek word for people of another language. So it would be the exonym. It would be what the Creek people call the Cherokee. The Creek people called the Cherokee people of another language. Cherokee, their original name for themselves, their autonym, as opposed to their exonym, was Aniyanwiya. Aniyanwiya, which means the real people, or the leading principal people, and or cave dwellers. Aniyanwiya is what the Cherokee people called themselves, and we probably should call them the Aniyanwiya today. Another name for the Cherokee people, Salagi. T-S-A-L-A-G-I. Just like Salachi Island, the former name of Point Isabel, or Burnside Island today. So you have Salachi, Salagi, very similar. So similar, strikingly similar, it's probably safe to assume that they're the same word. Salagi is not only a word for the Cherokee people, but today it's the word for the Cherokee language. So Burnside Island used to be called the Salachi Island. It used to be called Salachi Island. Salachi Island, Cherokee Island, they just named the island after themselves. So Salachi, Salagi, Salachi, Salagi, probably the same word, and they were just spelled differently because the Cherokee language was just an oral language. It was only spoken, and it wasn't written down until Sequoia decided to sit down and pen their alphabet, their corresponding words to the alphabet, and their entire Cherokee writing system, i.e. their syllabary, in 1821. So Sequoia was the one that wrote down what the oral language of the Cherokee people were. But since it was only oral, Salachi, Salagi, Burnside Island was essentially known as Cherokee Island, but Cherokee is Salagi. So it's Salachi Island. It would be more precise to call it Salachi Island if we're to honor the original natives. The word Kentucky is a Native American word. Over 50% of the states in the United States are named after Native American words. Salagi is also the name of the Cherokee language. Salagi is the only Southern Iroquoian language. The Cherokee people spoke an Iroquoian language, but it was so distinguished, so significantly different than the other Iroquoian languages. They called it the Southern Iroquoian language. So it distinguished itself significantly from the many other Iroquoian languages. Salagi is a polysynthetic language, and it uses a unique syllabary writing system. Only 16,000 human beings speak Salagi Cherokee today, in spite of Salagi being one of the most well-preserved North American indigenous languages. Salagi today is an endangered language. English speakers have a difficult time speaking Salagi, since the context, the object, and the action can all be represented by one single Cherokee word. So, Kutua, she who carries the sun, R.I.P. Kutua. And Point Isabel, we're going to name the fucking island after someone who committed suicide. Burnside, Ambrose Burnside's a badass, so I can't hate on Burnside. But the original name to Burnside Island is Salachi Island. Salachi Island. Why? Because that's where the Cherokee lived and breathed and fought and died. Again, Kutua, R.I.P.